I've seen lots of people do this. For example, when they want to store the speed or a jump force, they directly declare these values as variables. So they say, okay, variable speed equals to some stuff, and the same thing with the jump force, for example. And then they directly use these values inside of the code. And in reality, this does work as it should and give us the result that we want. That's basically running the game and having something. However, there is a one problem with this logic. Even though it does compile, it does look clean, and it does everything, what it doesn't is basically take advantage of something of programming languages, and that is the way of storing values. To store values in Godot and in lots of programming languages, there are two main ways, okay? You can either do it in variables, or you can also do it in other stuff called constants, okay? And basically, they are quite easy to understand because their names actually tell you everything. Basically, a variable changes its value, and a constant does not change its value. That's why it's constant in the first place. That's not the only difference, but also when you create a variable, you create it with a snake case such as jump force, I don't know, is jumping or whatever, okay? But constants, you declare them with a constant case, which means, for example, jump force, speed, direction, etc. Okay, so taking this into account, what we can see in this code is that basically the speed and jump force values, they are just being used, they are just being read, but they are not being set or modified. This means that we are not actually taking advantage of what a variable is, that is a value that can be changed during runtime. If in somewhere in the code, for example, we do, okay, I don't know, if the player collides with some mud, for example, the speed will lower itself. Or with the jump force, if there is some kind of power up that would make the player jump high, well, then it would be needed to actually create a variable. But in these cases, we are nowhere changing the speed or jump force values. That's why, taking into account this, let's refactor this code together. So as these have to be constants, let's firstly correct the naming. So I will firstly select this speed, and I will press Ctrl D to find all the references of this variable. Okay, so I will select all of them so I can rename them at the same time, and I will just call it as it should, speed. Then I will actually define this as a constant with a const keyword, and I will do the same thing but with jump force. I will select all the references. Well, I will also rename this comment, but it's not a big deal. Jump force, and now I will just make this a constant, okay? And right now the result that we are going to be getting is the exact same one indeed. But well, now our code is much better, is cleaner, is more efficient. So well, always writing cleaner code is going to be better. Maybe if you are a beginner, if you are just coding something quite small, it is not going to be something that will actually change your life. And in some cases, even in bigger projects, it is not something that will change it completely. However, writing clean, efficient code will allow you, if you are working with a team, to be clear with other people, or even for just yourself. Because if you're going to always have a value that won't change, why would you create it as a variable? It wouldn't make any sense. In programming and in game development and in every single area, it is always the best thing to do. It is always the best thing to use the best tool for the required task. If here we have to store a value, which is the best tool? We can use variables and constants. Both are going to be working just fine, but which is the actual best one? In this case, constants. Now, another thing that I briefly want to go over are the other advantages of using constants. So as they are constants, their value can be modified. So if I wanted to do something, I don't know, now I want to increase my speed times, 450, it is not going to be possible. And the Godot editor will actually tell me, okay, you cannot assign a new value to a constant. And the same thing with, for example, I know, jump force minus equal 30, for example, it will return the exact same error, okay? You can read it exactly here at the bottom. But for example, if we declare over here a brand new jump force, I don't know, let's assign it 300, okay, and we did change this value, it is going to work. So for example, I will print here initial jump force, and I will quickly print the initial jump force, and then I will increase it jump force by, I know, 550, okay, and then I will print the new jump force, so new jump force. And now as this is a variable, I receive no error, and this will actually happen inside of the game with no problem. So initially our jump force is 300, is the value that we defined over here, but then we updated this value, we increased 50 to this variable, and we print it again, okay. So there you can see the main difference between the two. Lastly, something that is usually overlooked, okay, and it's actually sometimes difficult when you are having a bigger project, is the code order. Okay, here in the GDS Crystal guide that you can directly look up for it in the Godot documentation, you can scroll down here a little bit until you find the code order, okay. Here you actually have to scroll down a little bit. I will actually leave this exact same link so you don't have to be looking around. And this is basically the order that you should follow when you are creating a script. Here, if you are a complete beginner, you may not really understand or have used lots of things. For example, what is a tool, what is a class name, what is a docstring, what is a signal, an enum, even what is the difference between a public and a private variable, etc. Don't worry about those. The thing that I want to explain in this video is that, for example, in the first place, you should declare your constants, and below your constants, you should have your variables, okay? And well, even if you have a more, let's say, advanced things, such as enums or signals, they should be on top of them. So well, also the code order changes. So well, this is all for this video.